only receive motions for the election of the chair. The clerk cannot receive other types of motions, cannot entertain points of order, nor participate in debates. We can now proceed to the election of the chair. Pursuant to Standing Order 106.2, the chair must be a member of the government party. I am ready to receive motions for the chair.
Mr. Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Albus.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Good day, everyone. I would like to nominate for our chair, Francis Scarpellegia from the Liberal Party.
It has been moved by Mr. Albus that Mr. Scarpellegia be elected as chair of the committee. Are there any other further motions? It has been moved by Mr. Albus that Mr. Scarpellegia be elected as chair of the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt the motion? I declare, pursuant to the House Order, I declare the motion carried and Mr. Scarpellegia duly elected chair of the committee. I invite Mr. Scarpellegia to take the chair.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here in person. Thank you very much to all. It's an honor and a pleasure to be in this role again. I can take this off, I believe, that once I'm sitting here. Alors, merci beaucoup.
So thank you very much for your support. I hope that everyone's doing well. It's the first time, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that I chair a hybrid meeting with a screen and members sitting around the table in person. So it was suggested to me that we could take 10 to 15 seconds to introduce ourselves because there are a lot of new faces here. So, Mr. Albus, would you like to introduce yourself?
Congratulations on your election. I know you're going to be quite capable, which is why I put your name forward, but I didn't know if that would be the death knell of your chairmanship. But it's great to be here. I'm Dan Albus for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola. I worked very cooperatively on the last one. Maybe that might be contested by some parties, but I really look forward to this session and working with the Environment Committee, and I welcome all newly elected, congratulations, but also reappointed or have been on this committee. I'm good to be working with you again.
Thank you. Mr. Davidson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and again, congratulations on your election to chair. And good morning, colleagues. We're going to have fun. I'm Scott Davidson, York Simcoe. I call it Lake Simcoe, York Simcoe, Lake Simcoe, home of the Holland Marsh, Soup and Salad Bowl of Canada, ice fishing capital of Canada. So I'm really looking forward to this committee, and thanks, and good morning, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and congratulations. My name is Earl Dreeshan, the Member of Parliament for Red Deer Mountain View. I come here with experience on international trade, industry, science, technology, and agriculture, and I know that the environment is very, very significant to all of those sectors in Canada, and so it's an honor for me to be here. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Dan Mazur, Dauphin Swan River, Neepawa, or Manitoba, and congratulations, Chair. My predecessor, you probably all know, was Bob Sopuck. So my location for my riding is basically west central Manitoba. So, and welcome all new committee members.
Good morning. Monique Posey from the Bloc Québécois. I was a member of the committee during the last session, Mr. Chair. You were there as chair, and you did a very good job. So congratulations again on your re-election. For new members, I would say that this is a really good committee to be on. We've made some progress. We agree on a lot of things. So welcome to everyone, and join in and take part in this good committee. Thank you, Madam Posey.
Well, good morning, colleagues. It's great to see everyone in person and on the screen. My name is Terry Duguid. I am the Member of Parliament for Winnipeg South, and my riding hosts Investors Group Stadium, the home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Grey Cup champions. Yeah. And I don't see any Saskatchewanians here, so. But in the last term, I was the parliamentary secretary to two ministers, the Honourable Melanie Joly, with responsibilities for Western diversification. I like to think I bring that perspective, like Dan, to the table. But I was also the parliamentary secretary to the Minister for Environment and Climate Change, with special responsibilities for freshwater and nature conservation. I think this is going to be a fabulous committee. I know I'm really looking forward to working with my colleagues on the screen and all of you, and I think we're going to do some great work for Canada. I love Lake Simcoe.
Okay, merci, Monsieur Duguid.
Thank you, Mr. Duguid. I see that there are 5 members on the screen, so we'll begin with Ms. Collins. We haven't seen each other in a long time. A lot has occurred in your life. You have a young girl, a young daughter now, and welcome to the committee.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on your election, Mr. Chair. My name is Laurel Collins, and I bring some experience from City Council, very passionate about protection of the environment and tackling the climate crisis, and really looking forward to working with all of you. It was really great last Parliament, and I think that we're going to have a similar experience this time. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Mr. Longfield.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and it's great to see returning members. We had a good time together last time, Dan. I would say that your poems launching our meetings were always welcome, and you always bring great skill to any committees. So we really do work well together, and I look forward to working with the rest of the members that are here. My riding is Guelph. It's a very active environmental center, and has always been a very progressive community when it comes to environmental issues. So I'm glad to be on this committee so I can bring some of the voice of Guelph to it.
Thank you, Mr. Longfield. Ms. Thompson.
Hello, I'm here from St. John's East in Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm very excited to be on this committee. It's obviously an area environment is such a concern for all of us. So I'm quite pleased to be here. I hear it's a fabulous committee. I look forward to getting to know you. Sorry that I am virtual today, but certainly in the new year, look forward to face-to-face, and hopefully we'll be able to have more meetings in person. But I am so pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Weiler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor and a privilege to be on this committee. I'm looking forward to working with everybody here. I'm the member for West Vancouver Sunshine Coast Sea to Sky Country, and I come at this line of work from an environmental and Aboriginal law background. So hopefully I can add some expertise to this work, and really looking forward to getting started.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor-Roy.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Leah Taylor-Roy, and I am the new Member of Parliament for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill. I'm very glad that I've figured out how to get this audio to work. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. And I am adjacent to Scott Davidson, and in fact, we have something in common, as I went to school in the Holland Marsh and worked on farms in the Holland Marsh. So the environment there and the farmland there is near and dear to my heart. Very interested in a conservation of environmental land protection, as well as agricultural methods that will protect our environment and food supply. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just like to echo what other members have said. This was a very friendly and collaborative committee, and we got a lot of work done in the last Parliament, and I'm sure that will be the case again in the 44th Parliament. I would just like to go over a couple of points related to public health. Given the ongoing pandemic situation and in light of the recommendations from health authorities, as well as the directive of the Board of Internal Economy on October 19th, 2021, to remain healthy and safe, all those attending the meeting in person are to maintain 2-meter physical distancing, must wear a non-medical mask when circulating in the room, and it is highly recommended that the mask be worn at all times, including when seated, and must maintain proper hand hygiene by using the provided hand sanitizer at the room entrance. As chair, I will be enforcing these measures for the duration of the meeting, and I thank members in advance for their cooperation. I would now like to suggest that we move on to routine motions.
There should only be one chair. The rule with an iron fist.
I'm so sorry. Again, this hybrid format will take some getting used to. We should proceed to the election of the vice chairs. Mr. Chair. Yes.
Mr. Chair, with great pleasure, I would like to nominate Mr. Dan Albas as Vice Chair for the Conservative Party.
Monsieur Albas, est-ce que vous acceptez cette...
Do you agree the nomination, Mr. Albas? Perfect. I don't see any other...
Nominate from the Bloc Québécois, Monique Posé, as Vice Chair.
Okay, Madame Posé, est-ce que vous acceptez...
Would you agree, Madame Posé, to be Vice Chair of the committee? With pleasure. So I don't see any other hands raised to nominate others. So I'd like to congratulate both Mr. Albas and Ms. Posé for being elected vice chairs of this magnificent committee. So I think we've done everything to get things organized for the committee so that we can now continue with the routine motions. Do I have anyone to move the motion? You've all received from the clerk a list of the routine motions.
To propose, Mr. Longfield, go ahead, please.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and congratulations to the vice chairs that have joined or rejoined the leadership of this committee. So the routine motions that we have before us, I'll start with the analyst services, that the subcommittee retain as needed and at the discretion of the chair the services of one or more analysts from the Library of Parliament to assist in its work.
Okay, any comments? Agreed. Okay. So that that is adopted. I don't see any objections. Would you like to...
Subcommittee on Agenda and Procedure, that the Subcommittee on Agenda and Procedure be established and be composed of 5 members, the chair, 1 member from each recognized party, and that the subcommittee work in a spirit of collaboration.
Any objections? Agreed? Okay.
Meeting without a quorum, that the chair be authorized to hold meetings to receive evidence and to have that evidence published when a quorum is not present, provided that at least 4 members are present, including 2 members of the opposition parties and 2 members of the government party. But when traveling outside the parliamentary precinct, that the meetings begin after 15 minutes, regardless of members present.
Longfield, does everyone agree to that? Agreed.
Time for opening remarks and questioning of witnesses. That the witnesses be given 5 minutes for their opening statement, and that whenever possible, witnesses provide the committee with their opening statement 72 hours in advance. That at the discretion of the chair, during the questioning of witnesses, there be allocated 6 minutes for the first questioner of each party as follows in the first round: the Conservative Party, the Liberal Party, Bloc Québécois, New Democratic Party. For the second and subsequent rounds, that the order and time of questioning be as follows: Conservative Party 5 minutes, Liberal Party 5 minutes, Bloc Québécois 2.5 minutes, New Democratic Party 2.5 minutes, Conservative Party 5 minutes, and Liberal Party 5 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur Longfield.
Thank you, Mr. Longfield. Do we all agree with that? Yes? Good. It will work as it did the last time. Mr. Longfield?
Okay, document distribution. That only the clerk of the committee be authorized to distribute documents to members of the committee, provided the documents are in both official languages and that the witnesses be advised accordingly.
Est-ce qu'on est d'accord? Oui.
Are we all in agreement? Yes? Good.
Working meals. That the clerk of the committee, at the discretion of the chair, be authorized to make the necessary arrangements to provide working meals for the committee and its subcommittees.
Il n'y a pas de dissidence autour de...
No dissenting opinions with respect to that? Adopted.
Prochaine motion.
The next motion, Mr. Longfield?
Travel, accommodation, and living expenses of witnesses. That if requested, reasonable travel, accommodation, and living expenses be reimbursed to witnesses not exceeding 2 representatives per organization, and that in exceptional circumstances, payment for more representatives may be made at the discretion of the chair.
Accepté.
Agreed.
Again, Mr. Chair, I really appreciate how the previous committee worked. I just would like to hear the commitment of the clerk that reasonable costs. Obviously, if someone has, has a person with a disability where they need extra help and assistance, that's considered reasonable. But I just want to hear from the clerk that the taxpayer will also be considered in his decisions when it comes to, especially when we're in the realm of so much Zoom business and telecommunications, like video and phone conferencing.
Well, I believe, yes.
Yeah, all reasonable expenses will be held, and as of right now, with the standing order or with the routine motion that was passed in the House on November 25th, that said that all witnesses are to appear virtually for the time being. So long as that motion is still in effect, witnesses will still be appearing virtually for committee meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you for raising that, Mr. Albas. Mr. Longfield? In-camera meeting?
Okay. Getting down to it. Yes. Access to in-camera meetings. That unless otherwise ordered, each committee member be allowed to be accompanied by 1 staff member at an in-camera meeting, and that 1 additional person from each House or officer's office be allowed to be present.
Sound good? Good. Go ahead.
Thank you. Transcripts of in-camera meetings. That 1 copy of the transcript of each in-camera meeting be kept in the committee clerk's office for consultation by members of the committee or by their staff, and that analysts assigned to the committee also have access to in-camera transcripts.
That's pretty, yes.
If a member of the committee of this 44th Parliament's committee would like to look at some of the in-camera discussions or whatnot, what would be the protocol for that for the previous committee? Are they authorized access to that?
So as of right now, the committee information is archived, and so they would need to pass a motion to bring that evidence back forward and to re-access it at that present time.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good question, Mr. Albert. Go ahead, Mr. Longfield. You're on mute.
I cleared my throat. You caught me. Okay, notice of motion that a 48-hour notice, interpreted as 2 nights, be required for any substantive motion to be moved in committee, unless the substantive motion relates directly to business then under consideration, provided that A, the notice be filed with the clerk of the committee no later than 4 p.m. from Monday to Friday, B, that the motion be distributed to members and the offices of the whips of each recognized party in both official languages by the clerk on the same day the said notice was transmitted if it was received no later than the deadline hour. C, notices received after the deadline hour or on non-business days be deemed to have been received during the next business day, and that when the committee is holding meetings outside the parliamentary precinct, no substantive motion may be moved.
Thank you. I have just a point of clarification for my own understanding. If a motion is submitted before 4 p.m. on a Friday, the Saturday and Sunday count as 2 nights, or do they have to be business day nights?
It's business day night, so they would.
It have to be what, Tuesday?
It would be, so if they submit it on Friday before 4 p.m., then it would be admissible on Tuesday.
Perfect.
At that
Okay,
point.
I just was curious.
Tuesday at 11 a.m. Or would that be Tuesday at 4 p.m.?
Good point.
Let me.
I would think at
Oh, we can. So it could be moved Monday. Yeah.
okay.
My apologies. 4 p.m.
Great question.
No, that's how we work in this committee. We go for the truth. Okay, thank you. And so does everyone agree with that motion? Yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Longfield.
Okay. Orders of reference from the House respecting bills. That in relation to orders of reference from the House respecting bills, A, the clerk of the committee shall, upon the committee receiving such an order of reference, write to each member who is not a member of the caucus represented on the committee to invite those members to file with the clerk of the committee in both official languages any amendments to the bill which is subject of the said order, which they would suggest the committee consider. B, suggested amendments filed pursuant to paragraph A at least 48 hours prior to the start of the clause-by-clause consideration of the bill to which the amendments relate shall be deemed to be proposed during the said consideration, provided that the committee may, by motion, vary this deadline in respect to a given bill, and C, during clause-by-clause consideration of a bill, the chair shall allow a member who filed the suggested amendments pursuant to paragraph A an opportunity to make a brief presentation in support of them.
Agreed? Okay. Mr. Longfield, just 2 left.
Yep, 2 left. Technical tests for witnesses. That the clerk inform each witness who is to appear before the committee that the House Administration support team must conduct technical tests to check the connectivity and equipment used to ensure the best possible sound quality, and that the chair advise the committee at the start of each meeting of any witnesses who did not perform the required technical tests.
Moi, j'aurais une question là, pour.
I have a question. Clarification, please. It's happened in the past, and we want to protect our interpreters. It says in the wording of the motion that we will do sound checks, check connectivity and equipment used to ensure the best possible sound quality. Sometimes, and who judges whether or not the quality of the sound enables the witness to make their comments? Are we relying on the interpreters to do these tests, to decide whether something's passable or not? Or who decides when we prevent the witness from testifying? Do you understand what I mean by that? It's a bit objective when you talk about the best sound quality possible. Yes, Mr. Chair. This happened last spring. A witness didn't have the proper equipment, and the interpreters weren't able to do their job. So they said that they couldn't hear the witness. So we can always make the decision to postpone the testimony to another meeting. So that's what I'm asking you. Do we prevent a witness from speaking if the interpreter signal that the sound quality is not adequate? You're okay with that?
Sorry. Yes, Mr. Longfield.
The way we functioned last time was to say that the equipment had to be supplied by the House of Commons that the witnesses was using.
Yes, but that doesn't seem to be in the motion, and there could be.
So
there could be a piece of equipment that's just as good that has not been supplied, that may even be superior, that has not been. So, but what did you want to say, Mr. Longfield?
No, I'll leave it at that. I was just bringing that forward as how we operate.
No, I indeed. So, as I read this, if the interpreters say this is not good enough, then I have permission to say to the witness, I'm sorry, but you'll have to procure some proper equipment, or we'll try to make alternative arrangements. But you cannot continue your statement. That's good. Yeah. Okay. So this motion is passed with that proviso.
Agreed.
Okay. Mr. Longfield, last routine motion.
Sure. Linguistic review. That all documents submitted for committee business that do not come from a federal department, members' offices, or that have not been translated by the Translation Bureau be sent for prior linguistic review by the Translation Bureau before being distributed to members.
That was, yes?
I just want to make a statement, though, that we've had in some cases where government departments come in and table drop documents. That is not helpful. So I would just encourage, Mr. Chair, you to work with the clerk to always emphasize that if a department is going to be coming in and they have prepared documents, that those be supplied to the committee as soon as possible, so to make sure that they're available both English and French.
Well, was it not a given that if you bring documents that they have to be in both official languages? That was agreed. That's always been the case, no? Yeah. So that all documents submitted to the committee that do not come from a federal department, right, have been translated. Okay, yeah, no, okay. We will always encourage witnesses to supply the documents ahead of time.
We did have a government department, and the date and the department escapes me at the moment because, quite honestly, this committee can be a blur. But we did have a case where a government department did not submit in both official languages, and that caused a big issue. Yeah. So just, again, if you could always proactively remind them.
Yeah, for sure.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, just because I'm new to the committee and on the topics of documents, I just wonder if we could have the clerk send us the Ministry of Environment's mandate letter, just because this is so important, this committee, so we know what direction we're headed over the holidays.
I don't believe the mandate letters have been issued yet.
After 2 months, still no mandate letters?
Well, I can't answer that.
We're still on routine motions.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was just on a topic of documents.
Okay.
Okay.
So are we good with the last routine motion?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Collins, yeah. And thank you, by the way, for signaling verbally, because it's hard to keep track of, whether the hand is up. Thank you.
For sure. I just wanted to also put forward a routine motion.
Yes. Just a moment. Can I just take a moment because we've passed the motion for the analysts to be named to their positions, and we've passed the routine motion for working meals. So I would like to invite the analysts to take their seats or their positions, and I would also advise members. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. It's going to take some getting used to, but there's an analyst at home, I think. And okay, so Natasha, nice to see you again. Yeah, hi, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. So we have 2 analysts at the moment. Okay, only 2. Okay, also, I would like to advise members to send any dietary restrictions they may have for working meals. Okay, Ms. Collins.
The motion is that when it comes to the makeup of witness panels during studies, each party represented on the committee be entitled to select 1 witness per panel. That if no witness is designated by a party, a decision be made by the clerk after consultation with the chair that this motion not apply. Sorry, there's a semicolon, and then that this motion not apply when ministers or government officials appear before a committee. And that where there are circumstances where this condition cannot be met, the chair and the clerk work with or consult with members of the subcommittee to finalize the makeup of the panel.
Okay, so nice to see you, Allison. Sorry, you were just a little blocked out from there's on the screen. Okay, who would like to speak to that? Would anyone like to speak to that? So there's agreement with this?
I've got my hand up.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Longfield.
I'll put my hand down. It seems to me that, there's going to be many cases where we're all in agreement on witnesses. And at that point, how do you determine which party that witness is there representing? I mean, generally speaking, the witness list is provided beforehand by all parties. The clerk does the panels based on availability at the time. Some witnesses from some parties may or may not be able to attend. So I think this puts some constraints on the clerks to be able to do their job. I think in terms of the questioning, we all have an opportunity to question the witnesses from our own policy platforms or from our own constituencies. So I think we're hand tying the clerk on this one. I would prefer to work on the witness list prior to the meetings to make sure that we all have a chance to get witnesses that we would like to see on the list, and then it's up to the clerk to try and get them to the meetings for us.
Does anyone, I didn't see, I'm looking at the screen and the table, so does anyone have their hand up here? Because Ms. Collins,
Mr.
your
Chair,
hand, is it back up or is it
Yeah,
from the
it's
first?
back up.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And really the intention behind this motion, and I think what it does is it allows us to create witness panels where each party has representation and witnesses on each panel. And it means that our committee meetings, I think, will be better served. We'll have a diversity of opinion. Oftentimes in the last parliament, there were witness panels that were completely composed of one or two parties' witnesses that they had suggested. It makes for, I think, less helpful hours of committee.
Mr. Chair.
Before I give the mic to Mr. Duguid, just by way of background, when it came to witness panels, I was always working with the clerk, telling the clerk that please have the panels represent the breakdown of the parties in the House. So it was a conscious effort made to make sure that everyone was fairly represented, and in fact, in many cases, the opposition witnesses, were more prominent. But in many cases, we couldn't. We kept trying for certain witnesses, and they weren't responding. Or so. Obviously, the committee will decide. But I am a little concerned that it will slow down the whole process of putting panels together, which sometimes can be a last-minute exercise. But I just want to assure you, Ms. Collins, that working with the clerk, we always wanted to make sure that, if anything, the opposition witnesses were overrepresented, because we didn't want to be accused of not taking into account their wishes. Mr. Duguid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Ms. Collins, for that suggestion. It went by me, I must admit, Mr. Chair, pretty quickly, and so I wouldn't mind seeing it in writing. That's one issue. And might this be an issue that is referred to the steering committee so that you could have a conversation and just see whether it is something that you can recommend to the overall committee?
Ms. Collins, would you be amenable to submitting it in writing so that we can discuss it at the...
Yeah, I have submitted in writing to the clerk if they want to email it around.
Okay, and we'll discuss it at steering, which you'll be on.
No, I would not be amenable to that. I would love to pass this here.
Okay. So, any other comments? So we'll proceed to a vote, Mr. Clerk, I guess. I haven't done this for a while.
Mr. Chair? Yes. I'd like to recommend a 2-minute recess.
Mr. Chair, you called the vote.
Yeah, it's true. I did call the vote. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Albus. That's why we have you as Vice Chair.
So we'll now proceed to a recorded division. So on the motion of Ms. Laurel Collins, and the motion reads as follows, that when it comes to the makeup of witness panels during studies, each party represented on the committee be entitled to select one witness per panel, that if no witness is designated by a party, a decision be made by the clerk after consultation with the chair that this motion not apply when ministers or government officials appear before committees, and that where there are circumstances that where this condition cannot be met, the chair and the clerk work with the consult with members of the subcommittee to finalize the makeup of the panel. So Mr. Dogood. Mr. Longfield.
Against.
Ms. Taylor-Roy.
Against.
Ms. Thompson.
Against.
Mr. Weiler.
Against.
Mr. Albus.
I'm in favor.
Mr. Davidson.
In favor.
Mr. Dreeshen.
In favor.
Mr. Mazer.
Favor.
Madame Posey.
En faveur.
And Ms. Collins.
In favor.
So the motion carries, 6 to 5. Okay, so that's settled.
Just a point of clarification or point.
Yes, Mr. Longfield?
What happens in the case when a witness is not available?
Pardon?
What
Mr.
happens
Albus
in
has
the
a
case-
suggestion. Mr. Albus has a
Yeah,
suggestion.
well, I think it's pretty clear is when the rule can't be made. I believe the last part of the motion read something that the chair and clerk consult with members of the subcommittee, and to me that's a phone call or a text if we're not sitting, or just a casual conversation. I think the
Okay,
chair
we
is
can
empowered
work
to
with
make
that.
decisions.
Yeah, as long as we don't have to have a meeting. If it's a phone call or text or a casual conversation, I think we can make this work. Okay. Thanks for the clarification. Point of clarification, Mr. Longfield. Are there any other proposals or Ms. Collins? You're on mute.
Every meeting. I have a motion that is not a routine motion that I was hoping to table and maybe refer to the subcommittee. So just wondering if now is the time to do that, or if we wait.
Can we receive this motion? Yeah, okay. Committee business, right, so it's committee business. Go ahead, Ms. Collins.
The motion reads, oh, I'm sorry, it disappeared from my screen. One moment. There we go. That for the second meeting of the committee invite the Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Development to provide a briefing on the office and the role of the Commissioner and the 2021 fall reports of the Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Development, and that the meeting be televised.
Okay, debate?
And Mr. Chair?
Yes. Sorry.
My intention was really to table this.
Yeah, have the steering committee look at it? Yeah, okay.
But I maybe just wanted to clarify with you, because I do want it to happen for the second meeting of committee, and to ensure that that would be possible if we are.
Here's what I was thinking. I was thinking of having a meeting of the steering committee next week. Now, Mr. Clerk, does it have to be in the same time slot as we are today? Because we have members from the West Coast, and 11 o'clock is fine. Yeah. Okay. So I was hoping to have a steering committee meeting next week sometime, maybe next Tuesday, where we could talk about future committee business and including this motion. However, as my understanding is, Ms. Collins, that for this to happen in the second meeting of the committee, we would have to get a steering committee report to the full committee to adopt. So I don't think it can happen on the second meeting of the committee, maybe the third. Yes, Ms. Collins?
Just a quick question. Then, since we will not, what would happen in our second meeting of the committee if we have no plans and we don't have a steering committee until?
Well, we would adopt the meeting, the report of the steering committee, or do something that we agree to today to do. Yes, Mr. Alba?
Yeah, well, I think that Ms. Collins is right. We should have the Environment Commissioner, those reports. There's a lot in them, and I think this committee's first duty is to look at work that has been done by the Commissioner. So I'm not opposed to us making that our second meeting. But we have had instances in other committees where the subcommittee met, and just with this in mind, then perhaps the Environment Commissioner is aware that we wish to see him and to talk about those reports, and then it's just a matter of scheduling that second meeting. So I think we can have a subcommittee report where we start the business, as long as there is agreement from all parties that the Environment Commissioner, because he will be waiting in the room for the adoption of that report, that the expectation is that we wouldn't reject that report and then send him away. That'd be a waste of time and everyone's.
So basically you're saying, and I'll get to you, Mr. Longfield, in a moment, you're basically saying let's de facto accept this idea for the second meeting and more formally, put it more formally in a subcommittee report, which we would adopt first thing on the second meeting. So basically, we're voting on your motion for the second meeting. But Mr. Longfield.
Yeah, I like the way the conversation is going. That the steering committee the steering committee is actually the agenda and procedure committee. Take a look at what we're going to be doing in the first meetings. I would like them to consider the water study that we were beginning and had done a lot of prep work on, and that would be included in the priorities that we look at in the upcoming meetings, and then get those scheduled in as well. But I think if the group that will be getting together to look at our agenda needs to give us that report so we can adopt it and follow the routine proceedings that we've just adopted. And then to have somebody, have the commissioner in the wings would be, I think, a good way of economizing our time.
Juste pour
Just to make things clear, what we're suggesting today is that we consider Ms. Collins' motion at the first meeting of the steering committee, which will take place next Tuesday at the same time, 11 a.m. But we agree that we would hear from the commissioner at the first meeting of the year on the week of the 20th, 23rd, and that we adopt the steering committee report and that we invite the commissioner for the second meeting. If I understood correctly, that's what we're dealing with.
Very collaborative here, and quite honestly, I think that if we're going to do this, let's just pass the motion, because then we don't have this uncertainty whether we have that. As long as Ms. Collins doesn't mind me just like being a Dan in a china shop with her motion, then I think we should just do that so that everyone has certainty as to what we'll be doing first thing as a committee. Yeah. The one thing I just want to make absolutely clear, though, is that the motion that was passed in the routine in terms of witnesses, I would believe that the Environment Commissioner would be treated similar to a government department. So we're not going to be saying, well, I want this assistant of the Environment Commissioner as a witness, because that's not the intent here. The intent here is to have the Environment Commissioner, and he can choose who he brings in.
Yeah. Okay. Alors, Madame Collins, est-ce que vous seriez d'accord?
So, Ms. Collins, would you agree that we'll proceed with your motion before the steering committee meets, that we decide to invite the commissioner? And so we'll go ahead with your motion. Are you in agreement with that?
Okay. Alors, si vous pourriez formellement la proposer.
So could you please formally present your motion?
So just to repropose the motion.
We do have a copy.
Pardon?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we do have a copy.
You do have a copy? Okay, good. So would you like to propose your motion just formally, and then we'll vote on it? There seems to be unanimous consent here, so.
That for the second meeting of the committee invite the Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Development to provide a briefing on the office and role of the Commissioner and the 2021 fall reports of the Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Development, and then that the meeting be televised.
Agreed.
Agreed? Okay, no need for a roll call vote. Congratulations on proposing the committee's first adopted motion of the 44th Parliament. Anyone else? Madame Posey.
Yes, Madame Posey. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one that's a follow-up to what was done during the last session. I think that you've all received it. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background for those who weren't sitting on the committee. The first motion that we studied was a motion on electric cars, zero-emission cars. We looked at it for infrastructure and all kinds of things. We spent 4 days hearing from witnesses and another 3 days to study the report, which was unanimous. And before the election was called, I think that we had 3 days remaining where the minister was to provide his report, his response rather, and then elections were called. And so what I'm asking the committee to do today is to consider the following motion. And we will, I want to read this motion now, that pursuant to Section 182 of the Standing Orders, that the committee undertake a study on zero-emission vehicles, that the testimony and the documents gathered by the committee during the second session with respect to the study be taken into account by the committee during the current session, that the committee adopt the report called the route to follow, emissions in Canada. This was adopted during the second session of the 43rd Parliament and tabled in the House of Commons on April 13, 2021, and that pursuant to Standing Order 109, that the committee provide a comprehensive report to this report. So this was tabled. I believe there were three days left to hear from testimony, so I'm just asking the minister to provide a response. I think that this was an election commitment made by all parties, and it's urgent that we take action. Everything's underway. Things are taking place. They can build these cars in Canada, but they're going to the United States because of what's happening down south of the border. So it's absolutely urgent that we take action.
I would like to offer my thanks to Madame Posey for bringing this forward. It was an excellent study, and I do think that it merits both a response from the government. It's our way of making sure that the government is held accountable. One question I would have, Mr. Chair, and perhaps you can consult with the clerk, is it's my understanding that we would need to have some sort of period for a dissenting report. So if we can just, well, again, this is a, by all, in my understanding, it would require, though, a time frame for a dissenting report, whether or not any committee members want to submit. Maybe if you could just check with the clerk if that's the case.
If I understand it, you want to reopen the report that we did in order to include a dissenting report.
Well, I think in any report that goes to the House of Commons, there's usually an opening for dissent. Whether a party chooses to do it, because it was an all-party.
I'm trying to understand. I've never been through this process before of reintroducing a committee.
Well, it's my understanding, just from consulting our side, is that any time you have a new report that's going to the House of Commons, that just fair play,
No, I understand,
due process.
but did you already do a dissenting report in the last one?
No, but again, this is, I'm stickler for details, Mr. Chair.
No, I understand the logic of it.
Yeah, and if this does happen again, then we would just simply ask for that same opportunity.
Okay, so the issue is this, and you'll correct me if I've misunderstood, but Madame Posey would like to get a response to the committee's report, which makes a lot of sense. But to do so, we have to basically re-adopt the report and table it in the House, I guess? Yeah, retabled in the House, which I think everyone's in agreement with. Now, because we're tabling the report, it's treated, essentially, it's treated like a new report. So we could, in fact, we could change the whole thing if we wanted to, presumably. But Mr. Albas is asking that we allow for dissenting reports. So this would be an amendment to the motion. So we'd have to vote on the amendment, I guess, to allow for a dissenting report. So that's what we're debating now. That's what we're going to vote on. Do we want to allow parties to?
Just before we begin, Mr. Chair. The concern that we have is that if this is used in the future, that would be waiving the ability for any party to be able to have a dissenting report in it. So we're not planning on putting our own dissenting report. It's more about the process that's being used.
I thought you were planning on a
No. That's not the case here.
So this would yes, Mr. Longfield.
My hand's been up for a little while.
I'm sorry, Mr. Longfield. I apologize.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think, at the time that we write reports, we decide on whether there's going to be dissenting reports. There's timelines given for those. I think that's counted within the procedure of adopting reports. I think these issues is something that we could look at with the steering committee of what we're going to be doing and what studies. I've already mentioned the water study that we began in the previous parliament, and knowing that you can't tie the next parliament with the work of the previous parliament. But my suggestion was we had started something that was going to be very worthwhile, and that be included in our list of studies, and that I would like to see it done first. So we're all going to have our ones that we want to do first, and maybe that's something that the steering committee can look at for setting the agenda for the upcoming session.
Usually, I always agree with Mr. Longfield, but not this time round. This is a report that was unanimous. I'd repeat this. We have good wording, and there was 3 days left, which in the deadline for the minister to respond. And so, before the official response came about, the elections were called, and most countries have this type of legislation, and they have more electric vehicles than we have in Canada. So we're lagging behind. When Mr. Albas says that, yes, I think we can table the report at the House of Commons. There'll be the 21-day deadline, and I think the minister will, and then there will be 60 days in which he can submit a dissenting report. So let's table this rapidly. And then right away, the 120-day period will start ticking. So the dissenting report has to be prepared before the report's tabled. But I have a question that's practical. Mr. Albas said that his party does not intend to submit a dissenting report. I'm presuming, Madame Posey, that you don't intend to submit a dissenting report.
Be looking to submit a dissenting report to the report we adopted. I don't think so. I don't get that sense. I haven't had a signal that you wanted.
We are not intending to adopt or
Okay.
present a dissenting report. That said, the concern that I had heard from Mr. Albus was that they weren't wanting this to be used in the future. And maybe just, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind clarifying, my understanding the standing rules is that there's a requirement right now for the time period for dissenting reports, that we don't necessarily need an amendment, that would be in any report that the committee is tabling, that there would be an opportunity for this.
Okay, so would the next question be, what kind of time limit do we want to give ourselves?
The thing I think that we're arguing, Mr. Chair, is just we just don't want
Chair,
to
I think
happen.
my hand was up first.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Longfield. Yeah.
A suggestion might be for us, and sorry, Dan, to interrupt, but this virtual thing is a challenge. I know.
Confusing, yeah. Go.
I think maybe we could write the committee could write a letter or a memo to the minister to ask for a response to the report that was tabled in the previous Parliament, and give him 120 days or give him 60 days to respond. Could we do this in the form of a letter?
Actually, that's not a bad idea, Madame Posé, because instead of giving the minister another 120 days, we write a letter to the, and we say, we're sure that your response is ready. Like, could you table it in the next 20 days or whatever number we want to come up with? And then if that doesn't work, we can go and retable the committee report. I don't know if it was Ms. Collins or Mr. Albus, Mr. Albus, and then we go to Ms. Collins. Is your hand up again, or is it just from the previous times?
So,
sorry, my hand is up, but after Mr. Albus.
Okay, and after Madame Posé, if that's okay.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, even though that is a suggestion, it is outside the motion that is before us. So I think we have to dispose of the business that's at hand first. If it brings some comfort, maybe what I could do is just see if this would be a friendly amendment to Madame Posé, is that just to simply add some language that any dissenting report would be required to have within the next 24 hours of adoption of this motion. And then that should give you enough time to be able to table it in the House.
Okay, then that gives the government another 120 days. Whereas if we send a letter, we say, look, give us your response to our report within the next 10 days or whatever we want to come up with. And if the government doesn't respond within 10 days, then we say, well, we're going to retable the report with dissenting reports.
Well, again, then members could vote this motion down, and I guess.
Well, I'm going to ask Madame Posé what she'd like to do.
Do you want us to retable the report with the possibility of dissenting report and to give the government 120 days to respond? Or would you prefer that the committee send a letter to the minister and saying, please respond within the next week, and if you haven't responded by then, we'll retable the report? Mr. Chair, I do agree with Mr. Albus's proposal. I want the report to be tabled before Christmas, and the idea here is that I want to have everything included in the sense that if we table it right way, the minister will have 120 days. He's not obliged to take 120 days. Mr. Wilkinson, and no, I did understand your intent. Okay, you got it. Ms. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just wanted to kind of echo Madame Posé. I think it's important that we table this motion letter. There's no requirement for the minister to respond, and I think that if we wanted to write a letter in addition to passing this motion, I don't think there's any harm in that, asking the minister to respond quicker. But it does seem like it's important to pass this motion, and I think because there was an amendment proposed, we're probably on that portion, and just wanted to speak in favor of the amendment as well.
Mr. Duguid.
Mr. Chair, and maybe it's because I'm new to the committee, but there's just a lot of things flying around. I'm a little confused. I wonder if it'd be helpful to suspend for a few moments for some informal discussion so we can make our way through this matter and make a final decision.
We'll suspend. For a couple of minutes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, where were we? Any hands up? There was Mr. Albus. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Albus.
So I was hoping that the clerk could first of all let us know how quickly he would be able to turn this around if this motion was passed, because that may impact the amount of time we would need for a dissenting report. So if I could just ask through yourself, Mr. Chair, the clerk, just to clarify that.
Could you clarify how long it would take to retable this report to get it? Well, I guess we'd have to change the date on it. That's pretty much it.
We should be able to do it pretty quickly to have it ready and then to table it like by the end of the week at this point. So if, depending on the motion that you adopt for the timeline, we should be okay to have it ready for table.
Your amendment is that parties can submit dissenting reports within 24 hours?
Well, I would even say the end of day today upon adoption, if Madame Posey is amenable to that. And the reason for this, Mr. Chair, is we just, again, want to create that if this gets used in the future, that there is you know, a period for dissenting reports. We don't plan on doing that. And so I would just want to support Madame Posey as much as possible.
So is that a friendly amendment or the Mr. Sub-amendment, so we vote on that, then we vote on Ms.
Sorry, an amendment to the motion.
Yeah, so we'll vote on the amendment, and then we'll vote on Madame Posey's motion. Anyone else? I don't see any. Mr. Longfield.
So with this amendment, my concern is that introducing a dissenting report on a report that's already being tabled is really effectively opening the study again. And I think we're looking for the right way forward. I suggested a letter because I think we'd get a faster response, or we could ask for a faster response. But Madame Posey makes a good point that the minister doesn't have to wait for 120 days and could give us a faster response, which gives some flexibility. If he needs the time, he can use the time, but if he can do it faster, that's better for us as a committee to get a response, because there was good work done there. So I'm concerned that the amendment on the table would be counter to the way reports are normally handled, that they're either tabled, or else if you're going to do a dissenting report, then you have to open up the study again so that we can see what's changed in the meantime. And so I wouldn't be supporting a dissenting report, but I would definitely support retabling the report as it is.
Okay, Mr. Weiler.
Yeah, my concern with having the dissenting reports is we have a very different makeup of the committee now, and so not all the members of the committee have had the opportunity to have witnesses and be able to ask them questions, and so that's part of my concern with this.
Mr. Weiler, anyone else? Mr. Albaz, then Madame Posey.
Yeah, just again to explain, when a committee readopts a report, usually they have to go through a standard adoption motion, including Standing Order 108-1B, which allows all parties to submit supplementary dissenting reports. So my stake in this is just process, not product. The Conservatives will not be putting forward a dissenting report. So if everyone just agrees with the idea that Madame Posey is putting forward today, please allow us just to put a little sticker when it comes to due process. And let's vote on this amendment. Again, it would be for the end of business day. I'm sure many of us have very great thoughts that we could quickly write down, but I really don't get the sense that that's really what's intended here.
Madame Posey.
I thought we're dealing with a formality. If the committee were to adopt this motion, we would resolve this. We're not basing ourselves going back in Parliament centuries ago. Now, I just want to remind you that this was a unanimous report. We studied this for months. We heard a lot of witnesses. In addition, this was a campaign made by all political parties during the election. Every party included this measure in their election platform. And in the speech from the throne, though not given by Governor General Simon, but the previous one, there was talk about making progress towards zero-emission vehicles. So at one point, we don't have any. I said to myself, we don't have any time to waste here. Industry needs predictability. So do this as quickly as possible so that we'll be able to get down to legislation, and the industry will be able to make the changes needed in order to be able to build these cars. Because this report ensures that the vehicles with zero emission built in Canada buy money provided by Canadian taxpayers. Well, that's what we need, but that's not the situation right now. The report talked about infrastructure. Anyway, these are my arguments, and I think that we need to table this by Thursday in case the House doesn't sit on Friday.
Il n'y a pas d'autres intervenants, donc je vous demanderai si vous pourriez...
I would ask you to reread your amendment, Mr. Albus, so that we can vote on it.
Any party wishes to submit a dissenting report must do so by end of business day, the day that this motion is adopted.
Okay, so I'm calling the vote on the amendment.
So Mr. Dogood.
In favor.
Mr. Longfield.
In favor.
Ms. Taylor-Roy.
In favor.
Ms. Thompson.
In favor.
Mr. Weiler.
In favor.
Mr. Albus.
In favor.
Mr. Davidson.
In favor.
Mr. Dreeshen.
In favor.
Mr. Mazier.
In favor.
Madame Posey.
Pour.
And Ms. Collins.
In favor.
So that's 11, yes.
There we go again, the Environment Committee working collaboratively. Okay, so now we'll vote on the main motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can we just seek unanimous consent for passing as amended?
I think that's a good idea. Is there unanimous consent to pass as amended? There is indeed. So congratulations, Madame Posey. And we'll look forward to the government's response.
Eh bien,
Mr. Chair?
oui, avec impatience, merci.
So I would like to take this opportunity to table another motion that we could study. This is a motion that you all received on, I think that the clerk sent it out. So it's a new motion for a study. Go ahead. So that pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the Standing Committee on Environment and Sustainable Development undertake a study for a comprehensive review of nuclear waste governance in Canada and its impact on the environment, including the issues raised by the import of these wastes and the trade in medical technologies. That the committee invite the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change, the Minister of Natural Resources, representatives of the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, Atomic Energy of Canada Limited, and Canadian Nuclear Laboratories, experts, and other stakeholders, that the committee hold a minimum of 5 meetings, and that the committee report its findings and recommendations to the House. One moment. There are 3 raised hands on the screen, but how do we proceed? How do we
supposed to put this in order?
I put my hand up last, so I'm third. in
Okay, so
queue.
the technology is not doing that. So,
Mr. Longfield, then Mr. Weiler, and then Ms.
okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Collins, for Mr. Longfield, Mr. Weiler, Ms. Collins. Okay, before I go to Mr. Longfield, I would just like to ask Madame Posey if she, I mean, it's up to her, I guess, but rather than have a big debate today, can we not submit this to the steering committee and discuss it there and then come back? Yeah, Madame Posey is in agreement.
Oui.
So I don't know if we need to go to Mr. Longfield, Mr. Weiler, and Ms. Collins. Does anyone know? Okay, so if you,
I was going to suggest that any other motions that we have, including this one, go to steering, and that we get those in writing to the steering committee so they have something to discuss when they get together next Tuesday, if that's going to be the meeting date.
that sounds good to that sounds good to me.
Report back.
That's
Yeah, thank
okay. So Mr. Weiler and Ms. Collins, do you need to intervene? No. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
just wanted to say thank you to Madame Posey for putting this forward, and also, we will be submitting a motion on fossil fuel subsidies, and really looking forward to the subcommittee to discuss all of them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Albus.
Yes, I'd also like to thank Madame Posey for submitting this, and I agree with the method that we go to the subcommittee. But Mr. Longfield had suggested that we refer any new motions to the subcommittee. As the subcommittee is actually a group of people, I think it would be better for us to submit them to the clerk so that they go through the proper notice of motion and can be registered and then sent to all committee members properly. I'm not trolling Mr. Longfield, just making sure that we, if for new members here, that they know the process, that if you want to table a motion, it should go to the clerk.
No. So what you're saying is, please table your I mean, what Mr. Albus is asking. Is that yes, send the your motion for steering committee, but also submit it to the clerk so that it's before the committee and ready to go if need be. So presumably that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's what we'll do, I guess. And are there any other? Yes, pardon.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, Mr. Albus has a motion to adjourn. I think there's unanimous consent there, so we will adjourn.